You are listening to WPHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk radio.
Reaching all the way back to 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition. Here is your host of Fate Radio, Kat Hobson.
Good evening and welcome to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. You are listening to Fate Mag Radio, and I am Kat Hobson, your host. I would like to wish everyone who is celebrating a happy Easter. I would also like to say that to the people of Sri Lanka, I mispronounced that, but that's okay, they know. We are with you. I am so horrified and terribly sorry that this nation has been attacked, and I just wanted to put that out there because evil does walk our earth, but the light does too. So just take care of you, and we will too. Before we bring in tonight's guest, I have just got to say that I am very excited to be hosting Dr. Barry Taff. He holds a doctorate in psychophysiology with a minor in biomedical engineering. He is probably, I would say, one of the pioneers of parapsychology. He worked at UCLA's former parapsychology lab, easy for me to say, laboratory. He was there from 1969 through 1978. He was a research associate, so he got a lot of hands-on training and experience working with subjects. He has investigated over 4,500 cases. This includes ghosts, hauntings, poltergeists. He's conducted extensive studies in telepathy and precognition, which I'm interested in as well. He has actually been involved with remote viewing research, and I've experienced that as the vessel that someone remote viewed through, so I'm interested in having that conversation too. There is so much to learn from this man. He has, oh my gosh, what hasn't he been on? He was on Coast to Coast AM with George Knapp. He has been on Hard Copy, Sightings, Judge for Yourself, The Extraordinary, The Will Shriner Show, The Other Side, Haunted History, World's Scariest Ghost Caught on Tape, The Girl Next Door, An Unknown Encounter, and something I found interesting, California's Most Haunted. He has been a consultant with the CIA, the Office of Naval Intelligence, the National Security Agency, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, the FBI, Interpol, LAPD. Oh my goodness, this list just goes on, and if I go through everything that he's done, we are never going to get to hear from him. I do want to let you know that his book, Aliens Above, Ghosts Below, Explorations of the Unknown, is fascinating. And it's available. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, CosmicPantheon.com, everywhere. And I have to ask you, Dr. Taff, are you tired of hearing all about how wonderful you are yet?
No, but actually I am, but I'm not. I appreciate the glowing comments and discussion of the last 50 years of my life, but in a way, it's been a weird sort of half century for me, because you attract strange people in every respect, and you think it'll make your life better. But in some respects, it's made my life worse, because I thought that by appearing on the right shows and radio and news in newspapers or journals or publications and publishing the right things, it would help you become more productive in your work. And if anything, it was the opposite, that getting too much attention early on in the media didn't serve to help me at all. It served actually as counterproductive. So it's great to have done all this, and I'm glad I did it. I wouldn't want to change anything. But it then comes back to haunt you in a really strange way where a quick story. Some years ago, okay, I co-own a number of medical device patents that I have with one of my colleagues. He's a medical doctor who I met in the lab at UCLA way back when. And so we developed them. We got patents. We did some clinical validation studies. We built early prototypes. So wrote a business plan, and we ended up getting it to a really large multinational firm that does develop and market medical technologies. And the second in command read it. He really liked the business plan, and we passed it upstairs. And weeks go by, and weeks go by, and months go by, and months go by, and we're getting no response. And so I finally made contact the best way I could, and I was able to talk to the man in charge upstairs by accident or good timing. And
timing is all.
He said, for what I've read, you've never done any work at all. These are not devices. The whole thing looks like it's fake. And he started making statements that in no way correlated to the business plan, which I didn't write. It was written by a professional, a person who specialized in writing plans for medical devices. And he started making these weird comments, and I finally stopped him. I said, "Sir, look, I'm tired of what you're saying. It's boring. You didn't read a word of the plan, did you? Come on, tell me the truth. You didn't read one word of it." And yes, you're right, I didn't. He said,
he was
the reason
honest.
I didn't, well, he said, the reason I didn't, I looked you up, and he said, you're crazy.
Oh,
You
my
know all
word.
this weird stuff, this paranormal garbage and UFOs and everything. Come on. We're going to waste our time and energy dealing with someone like you. The minute I found out who you were, we threw your business plan out. We burned it.
What a
And
place.
that's real common, because if you've never gotten a lot of money and made a lot more money with it, to business, you're a risk. If you throw in the parapsychology end of it, from my end, you're even a bigger risk, because people think you're crazy.
That's true.
Forget all the TV shows and the movies and the academic studies that have been done. It doesn't mean anything, because when it comes to business, hiring you or working with you in a professional clinical manner, people are terrified.
I find that odd.
When I finished my education in 1975, completed it, I applied for teaching positions or positions as research associates in different places throughout the world. No email, it was all snail mail. Sent out applications everywhere. And most of them never responded. A few trickled back, and they said, by mail, they said, you've got a lot of nerve expecting us to hire someone like you. What? Well, they said, first of all, you create a, what was the word they used? A hostile work environment where people would either be frightened of you or want to talk to you about what else you were doing, and it would create chaos in the workplace. And we want a wheel and a cog. We don't want someone who's going to create waves who make people think. We'll show up, do
God
your job,
forbid,
and
right?
go home. Go home,
Really?
right. And they said we could never hire someone. Well, first of all, we don't hire celebrities. You've appeared on all these shows. This is in the 70s already. Way back. All these shows, all these newspapers and things. We could never hire you. Hostile work environment, too big of a risk. You create chaos, total chaos. And I went, wow. I said, no. So my background's been intriguing, and I wouldn't change it for anything. But it came back to haunt me very quickly when I came out of graduate school. I thought, oh, this is great. No, actually, it wasn't great. So it was very difficult to do anything other than keep working in the field, which I did until the lab closed.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that laboratory experience that you
Hmm.
had. I know that it closed in that it actually closed in 1978.
Correct.
Well, I have an acquaintance, a friend who was trained through a facility at Berkeley, if I'm not mistaken, and and psychic abilities.
Hmm.
Is that institution at all like the environment that you were involved in?
I don't know. Well, I know that at Stanford, University, they had the SRI, Stanford Research Institute, which did this formal studies on the remote viewing stuff with the government and the military and all that. As far as Berkeley, I don't know. I think I was up there a long, long time ago giving a lecture, but we had no formal association with that other than it being another UC campus. I don't know what was done there. I don't remember any names linked to them, but it doesn't mean that work wasn't done. It just means that no names I come in linked to Berkeley. I remember Dr. Jeffrey Mishla was up north from where I am in Los Angeles, and I don't remember exactly where he went or what he did, but maybe he was involved with this. I don't know.
I was just curious because it seems that all of the work that was being done in this field that I can find was being done on the West Coast. Would that be an
Well,
accurate statement?
Well, I get some of it. I mean, there was being stuff on the East Coast. There was stuff at the Foundation for the Research Nature of Man and the old Duke, the laboratories at Duke University that was going back some ways. That was work was being done. Oh God, I'm trying to think. So long as I've talked about some of these people. There was work up on. Yeah, there were people. Oh Jesus, I can't remember the names. I'm terrible with names now.
Well, that's okay.
There were some really good people working up and down the state at UC Davis. Stanford wasn't part of the UC system, but it is on the West Coast. But I'm trying to think. There was. Dr. William Roll used to be on the East Coast. Then he ended up, I think in Georgia or something like that. But there's the money that went to fund remote viewing was pretty much linked to a Stanford Research Institute. They did some really, really good work, which was quite demonstrable as to what the ability can do. And then afterwards, if I remember correctly, the work was reevaluated by a professional debunker. And he said that, it was all nonsense. There was no phenomena. The whole thing was incorrect in their interpretation of the data because the people were fooled by what they believed in. And it was an utter waste of time. I thought, what?
What an
Well,
open mind he had.
Well, I mean, I knew who the guy was. I didn't know him, but I knew who he was, and that didn't surprise me. So they have these debunkers do a whole other set of statistics to reevaluate what was done with the SRI and remote viewing, which is, again, so quite specific, state-specific, and very precise and accurate at times. And the new statistical breakdown demonstrated that, there was no remote viewing. It was all fantasy or wishful thinking. So let's see, tens of millions of dollars was spent. They got no results, but they kept doing it.
Well, the U.S. government was funding this. I mean,
that's what I'm
as
saying,
well as the Russians.
Right. And one of the good things that came out of the Russians' interest in parapsychology, what they called psychoenergetics, was the fact that without that competitive edge, the United States, no one here would have ever gotten interested in it. It's a little too strange, a little too off the norm, a little too fringe-oriented. It's amazing. There was trying to think. I remember when Uri Geller was really big in the 70s, and he did up to Lawrence Livermore, Berkeley, and he did some experiments there. He performed on him and all over the country. But there was one instance, if I remember this correctly, where they gave him, I think it was at UC Berkeley,